Hello, Avatar fans, and welcome to the next episode of the Avatar Online podcast. This is going to be episode 227 of our regular shows, and we're recording this on April 4th, 2021. This is the official podcast for the fan site, Avatar The Last Airbender Online.com, and I'm going to be your main host, Morgan Airspeed Prime. Joining me on the podcast is Greg2B from the site.
What's up, everyone?
Excellent. So on today's podcast, we've just got a lot of news to go over from the last couple of weeks. I don't think any of it is like huge, but there's some stuff to get into it. Some of it's a little bit interesting. So we're going to kick it off here with some action figure news. So loyal subjects obviously are doing their best action line of figures, and we know they're going to be doing Avatar figures. We've had quite a few kind of images of the book 1 Aang that they're going to be doing, but now we have information on the next 3 Avatar figures that they're going to be doing. Unfortunately, there's only images of one of them, but we get confirmation at least of the characters. So we are getting a book 3 Aang, as well as a Zuko and a Katara. That's all there really is to say. And then from the image of the book 3 Aang, we can see that the Aang is going to come with 3 heads. So you get sort of a neutral expression, angry expression, and then smile. It's going to have 2 small sort of little cyclone air effect parts. It's going to have his book 3 style glider and some extra hands, I guess, to hold the effect parts, fist hands, normal hands, and then hands for the glider as well. So kind of everything that you'd want. And I'm guessing there probably will be crossover with the first Aang, where like if you want to put the Avatar State head on this one, it'll probably work, and so on. But Greg, what are your thoughts on this best action news? The images of the Aang, as well as the confirmation of a Zuko and a Katara coming.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I like that they're going with this sort of style of the character. I wish we had more of a production look of it, but from the preview images that we have, I mean, it gives you a really good idea of what it's going to look. I think sort of the neutral face that you mentioned, that almost seems like a little bit more like mean to me than perfectly neutral, but I like the happy, the sort of upbeat face. I think is definitely really in line of what you would think of Aang, even at the later part of the series. So no, I think it's really cool. I think it's definitely, interested by people, since it's already sold out, at least on one of the sites that I see here. So no, overall, I think this is a really cool, and I can see why people would be really interested in getting this one. And with the news of the other 2 characters that we have coming out, I think it's looking to be that this, to me so far is probably one of the top favorites so far of everything that we've gotten so far, or everything that's announced so far, since there is still a lot that we hope is coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, I definitely think the book 3 Aang looks good. We obviously have something to compare it to, because Diamond Select have their book 3 Aang, and basically I think all they have to do to make this better than the Diamond Select one is just have his his left shoulder and right kind of hip joint be usable with the way his kind of outfit is designed. That was the major problem with the original figure, because the material they used was so stiff. But the pictures that we've seen for like the book 1 Aang, it looks like the material they're using is a little bit more flexible, rubbery, so it should be better. Probably won't be perfect, but hopefully it'll, like you say, it's just sort of a CG render here. It doesn't even look like it has most of the joint cuts included here, but it looks pretty good so far. So as the major question is just for Zuko and Katara is, are they going for book 1 or book 3? I think most fans will always want the book 3, but it is kind of interesting that a lot of the companies have skipped over really doing a book 1 Zuko, and that pretty much Funko are like the only ones who've done one. And then we haven't really seen a book 3 Katara figure yet. So what are your thoughts on what they'll go for here with these 2 characters?
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be in line with this one, it would lead me to think of them doing book 3. And also, I think, I don't know, I think it feels, since that's like, for, the amount of time that has passed so far, that is, what would be the most recent, look that we have for them. And I think a lot of people, they really, at least from what I gather, and I don't know, you can either confirm or deny this, that a lot of people seem to really like the season 3 ones, just because that's, when they're a little bit more mature, the outfits have sort of been more refined. Even, the art from the show, of course, has, of course, improved over time, throughout the season. So just the whole look and feel of it, I think is, it goes well with those. So, I mean, I almost, even though I know it's always cool to have like the original in the beginnings, but I think for some of them, like, I don't know, I think for me, I'm never quite as interested in like the book one Zuko. I don't know, maybe that's just my personal preference. I mean, there is something classic to that, with the whole sort of traditional Fire Nation outfit. But for me, I think it's really cool to see them in sort of their later stages and where they've sort of progressed to. But that's just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, I think the general thing just tends to be that like the hairstyle on Book One Zuko is probably what like it is not the most kind of flattering kind of look for him, I suppose. And from an action figure point of view, you want Book Three Zuko because that way you can do the swords in
Yeah,
addition
that
to
too.
fire parts, whereas you kind of have to stick to just effect parts, I suppose, for the first one. But there's room for both. I'm definitely really interested to see whichever company puts out the first book three Katara, just to see how they do the hair. That's because her hairstyle for like book one is complicated with the hair loopies, but it's actually you can see in plastic how it's okay to do. It's much more complicated because it's obviously longer in book three, and I'm interested to see how they do that in terms of like will we get some
Mm.
hair articulation to keep it out of the way, like anime figures do, and so on. But yeah, it's exciting. It's just that unfortunate thing that whenever a new company announces new figures, they always have to start with the same characters and like we're
Mm.
excited to see our first like Suki action figure, our first Ty Lee action figure, but we have to get through the 5, 6 Katara, Aang, Zuko's before we get there. So that's
Yeah.
just a little bit of a frustration, as we sort of see as we go into the next action figure news, which is QMX Quantum Mechanics. Is it? I'm not sure about the full name. Either way, QMX is what their website says. They have announced that they have the Avatar license and are going to be making Avatar figures as well as Avatar plushies. So what they've announced is an Aang Q-Fig Max Elite kind of figurine, which is a sort of statue. It's a Max Elite because it's a little bit more complicated of a scenario that Aang is in. It's like it's kind of super deformed. It's not full chibi style, but it's also not fully show accurate. It's a pretty cool air effect part. Aang's got his staff. There's Momo. There's leaves, rocks, and Aang standing on a tree stump that has the air symbol on it. Looks pretty cool. It's going to be $50. It's coming out in the spring. So I suppose we'll just talk about this one first. Obviously, the idea is that they're going to do more of these. We'll probably see Max Elites, normal Q figs, which I think are just more standard basic bases, and it's just the character. So we'll see cheaper
Hmm.
versions as well. But what are your thoughts on this Q fig Aang Max Elite?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I like the stylistic choice that they went with it. It's not, like you said, it's not perfectly show accurate. It's not quite chibi. It's like somewhere in the middle. I guess it's probably just more along the lines of the style of figures that this company particularly does. So I think, from that perspective, it's pretty cool. And if you're into this sort of, more statuesque figure that's more of a scene that you could even build like a cool background with it to go with it as well. I think this is definitely one of the more interesting ones. I mean, again, it is from the beginning of the season, so they'll have to go through, I guess, a whole bunch of these to get to sort of the later ones. Although I think it is interesting that they chose I guess this particular setup for this character. But overall, I think it's pretty cool. It's definitely one of the more, I guess, unique or interesting takes that we've had on one of these characters so far. So no, it's cool to see. And if they do go along the lines of building all the other ones with, what sounds like all the different, like, I guess, levels of designs that they have, that should be interesting to see how far they go with it.
Mm. Yeah, I think for me, my opinion on this kind of more depends on like how the other characters look in this style. That's why I'm like not really jumping to pre-order this or anything like that. I want to see what the others look like. I think it's a nice statue, and I like that we are entering this kind of era where the statues are more going for like, let's do some really crazy stuff with the bending effects, which prior to the Diamond Select statues we hadn't really seen all that much. They'd always just been the characters in a pretty standard pose, but now we're seeing the Diamond Select Aang, Zuko, Katara with these crazy water, air, fire effects, and similarly this one has a bit of a whole scenario going on in addition to the effect. So I'm excited to see what they do going forward, and especially knowing that like when they do the normal Q figs, they're only going to be like $20, I think, is the pricing for the smaller ones. That could be really interesting if they have just a bit of a random character that maybe hasn't got a statue before at a cheap price. But the other things they've announced are some of these plushes. So we have Aang, Sokka, and Katara Q Pals. So it's book one, Aang, Katara, and Sokka. I think these look pretty cool. Like again, they're not trying to be like super accurate to like the chibi style necessarily, but they're also not trying to be overly realistic, and I think that works for a plush, because it can kind of look a bit weird when they try to be too realistic. And I'm really just impressed with the detail. Like Aang's book one outfit is actually like really complicated when you like analyze it in detail. So it's like impressive to see that like from the back view they actually have the
Yeah.
exact details right on like how his outfit actually looks. And the same for like Katara, like her hairstyle from the side and back, like the detail is all there. So it's it's not just a simple plush. They're trying to make these really really accurate, and that like Sokka's boomerang looks nicely detailed as well. What are your thoughts on these plushes?
Yeah, no, I think this style, when you have the plushes with the more, fabric look, I think this works a lot better than say some of the other ones we've seen, just because, you're already trying to like simplify the design, but you're still trying to keep it as accurate as you can, like you've mentioned with, sort of the small details that they have in the outfits and their clothing and just their whole overall design that they have here. So I think for people who are into getting the plushes, I think this is probably of the characters themselves probably one of the better ones we get. Usually we get it for like sort of the animal companions, but getting it for the characters in this style, I think this looks pretty cool. And I think for people who are really into this is going to be something that they're going to want to get.
Yeah, and these all cost $20, and I don't think there actually is a proper release date, but I assume it's coming out in or around spring, like the other Q fig. And then hopefully, yeah, they move on to do other characters as well. I think if they ever announce like a Zuko Q Pal, that's going to do very well, assuming they do book 3, I would guess as well. But yeah, they need to do Toph and some of the other main characters. But even some of the other minor characters would be fun to do, like a Boomy Q Pal. That seems pretty cool. But yeah, QMX, another company making Avatar products, just highlighting everyone's doing something Avatar these days, and we still haven't had McFarlane announce their figures yet. So that's sort of the kind of big one that we're waiting for, because they have Avatar and Korra. So our first look at Korra figures whenever they decide to do that. We move from action figure and merchandise news into book news. So the first thing I have here is that we finally got the official cover reveal for the Legend of Korra Art of the Animated Series Book 2 Spirits, second edition, and the deluxe edition details as well. I hate having to say that full title every time I read out the book. It's so complicated. But full cover, and then we also get a look at the logo that they're using on the deluxe edition to represent Book 2 Spirits. So the logo they're going for is the water symbol, the classic water symbol that we know, but that it has this sort of like icicle kind of freezing effect on it, and you have sort of water droplets coming off it, and then there's a bit of a kind of moon pattern on the bottom, and then like a circle, and you have like a spiraling water coming off it. Gives me a little bit of a sort of start of spirit bending look. I think it fits for Book 2 Spirits, given that it's the most kind of water tribe focused of the Korra books. It's a nice symbol. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? That's what they're going for here on these slipcases.
Yeah, no, I think the design that they have on the slipcase, I think it definitely works well. It should line up nicely with the other ones if you are into collecting all of them. And the cover overall, I think for this one is pretty nice. It definitely fits the theme of what they're going for. So I say, if you don't have this already, this definitely seems like something that you would wait for them to come out with it so that you can pick this up.
Yeah, and then the actual cover is really, it really stands out. The use of colors here. It's
Hmm.
Unavatu standing behind Cosmic Korra, who is holding Korra in the Avatar state in like a ball of kind of light, and you've got the sort of harmonic convergence northern lights in the background as well. So it's like purple, green, black, red, kind of glowing blue, glowing white. Um, it's it really I really like this because I love all the crazy spirit stuff at the end of book two, and so this is like the perfect kind of cover for me. And what's so interesting about this is that when Brian teased this cover, he only teased the little Korra that's like a tiny fraction of the overall image, and you got no impression that like Cosmic Korra and Unavatu were both in it. But what are your thoughts
Hmm.
on this as the book two cover?
Yeah, no, that was really a nice sort of, I guess, mini tease for that. But yeah, I think overall this is really nice. I really like how it's just, the progression of like, just the different spirits in the character and just the whole. I think it really captures what this, season was about, this book was about.
hmm And then yeah, we have further confirmation forward by P.J. Byrne. We already knew that before, but it says
Hmm.
it there on the cover, highlighting that yeah, I'm guessing Seychelles Gabriel and David Faustino will do the other two um, art books, and then we'll see what on earth the sixth mysterious deluxe edition is going to be. We're probably still quite a while away from them actually announcing that, but speculation keeps going on about what it is. So that's that. Um, Next, we move on to Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Kyoshi novels box set by Abrams Books. So this kind of came out of nowhere. Unfortunately, there's no image to go along with it, but this is coming out October 19th, 2021. This is just going to be a box set that has The Rise of Kyoshi and The Shadow of Kyoshi hardcover editions together in a box. Um, Really, I think this all depends on what the box image looks like. I'm guessing it is just the standard two hardcovers and not the sort of special edition ones that certain shops had.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I suppose only other interesting thing is just that they're making sure to get this out before the paperbacks, which have obviously been heavily, heavily delayed into like it's still like over a year away. I think it's like May next year. So interesting decision. I suppose they just have to keep printing the same books and just make a box for it. So it's a way to do it. Um, and yeah, other than that, it's not even like a saving over the retail price of the two books together. I think it's basically just exactly the same. So, um, I guess free box if you're interested in it. Do you have anything to say about this?
Um, Not too much. I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I always think of, I don't know if how much it's really worth doing it for two books, but I think if you don't have the books, like I might consider it because I only have the digital versions of it, and if I wanted both of the books together, this might be worth it just to have them together. It would be cool if it was the special edition ones, but I guess I wouldn't really expect that either.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. With something like this, I always find it weird that like when you announce this, like you really don't have an image to go along with this, and it's not like too far away into the future, releasing in October. Just like when the main unique selling point is just the cover box, like show what that
Hmm.
is, to sell it. The reaction when I did a YouTube video on this was that a lot of people were kind of like, "Oh, I just bought the book like last week. I would have waited to get this." So
Yeah.
there's a demand for this. Collectors wanting to just have the kind of collector's edition of both, not needing to worry about ordering two books separately and so on. So there's definitely an appeal here, and it's going to sell well because both books sold really well, and the fact that they're getting this product speaks to the success and the confidence that they have in it. So
Hmm.
the kind of slight rumors we've had from the German publisher that there will be more novels definitely makes sense. Abrams Books would absolutely want to keep making that happen. We're just waiting to hear news about that. So from there we move on to this is probably the biggest news that actually we have to talk about this week, and that is Free Comic Book Day 2021. Avatar and Korra are both getting free comics. It's the same comic, but in previous years, it's always been like Avatar plus another Dark Horse license, Korra plus another
Hmm.
license. But now it's Korra plus Avatar. That's the way they have it ordered here on the placeholder cover, where Korra's the spotlight, and then it's also featuring Avatar. They've announced the creative teams, but like no details about the story, no imagery. Just the description says, celebrate the world of the four nations with two all-new stories from Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. Your favorite characters from both generations of Avatar teams bring you some food for thought and more than a few laughs along the way. Writer is Nadia Shamas and Kiku Hughes. Artist is Sarah Alphageh. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Sam Beck and Savannah Ganucho. Cover artist is Sam Beck. And this time out, this year, Free Comic Book Day is going to be in August. It's August 14th, 2021, and they're saying it's going to be a 32-page book. But there's usually a lot of adverts, I think, in these ones, so that doesn't speak that like it's 16 pages per franchise. It'll still probably be the 11, 12 page per comic that we had before. So yeah, there was a lot of excitement about this, but I think people expected them to follow up pretty quickly with here's what the cover is, here's any details about the story. It's so weird just looking at this like official product page on the Dark Horse website alongside all the other comics, and it's just this plain cream cover with the two logos and like no information, and it says not final cover. Like of course it's not. What are your thoughts on this? They've finally gone for the full on Avatar free comic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like we've been saying, it just shows the current popularity that everyone is sort of, going with now that they see the value in having it, be the whole book instead of it being split with one of their other, potential series that they have. So, I guess that definitely shows the worth of it, and it's, interesting, just which one they have as the main feature. Although, like you said, with it being such a short book and having, adverts for other of their series as well, because that is kind of the whole, part of the point of the free comic book day in general. I wouldn't expect it to be, particularly like more, one-sided towards one or the other. It'll probably be about the same, I would think, for both of them. But no, it should be interesting to see, what the stories they go for, and, how it might tie into other things, since we have in the past gotten some pretty good things from these free comic book day comics.
Yeah, they've definitely been on the side of being some of the best short stories rather than the worst. In that,
Hmm.
like, Rebound, Shell, Sisters, the Avatar ones are all really strong. Uh, the two core ones are sort of the hit and miss ones, where Friends for Life is like really good, but Lost Pets is like very forgettable. So they've got a decent amount to live up to, but recent short stories from Team Avatar Tales weren't so great. So, hopefully there's a bit of an improvement there. With Korra, they've got so much ground to work with, it should be fine. Avatar, it'll be interesting to see what they actually go for. In that, I'm hoping it's more minor characters in the spotlight, but we'll obviously have to wait and see on that. And yeah, just nothing really to speculate on here is pretty unfortunate. Like the creative teams, Kiku Hughes, I think, was either the writer and artist for one of the Team Avatar Tales books. It might have been Origami. I might be completely misremembering that. So like we've seen work from that writer before, um, and I think other than that, I think everyone else is new. Have we seen Sam Beck do anything Avatar? I can't really remember, but either way, like seeing some new people write and do art for Avatar is going to be exciting. The question is obviously like, when are they going to actually announce some of this stuff, because typically for the usual May release of Free Comic Book Day, we see the imagery in December, and we're like 4 months away now from the event, and we still haven't seen the cover. So I don't know if it's just that this is a little bit behind schedule because of the sudden change to August, but it's kind of weird that combined with this is not the core comic I expected them to announce coming up next, given that we're still waiting for a certain other core comic. It just feels like we're a little bit disorganized at the moment with Avatar comics. So, hopefully things get back on schedule. We've only got like about 3 months of solicitations left for books, so they're quickly running out of time to announce like the next core comic in. And I suppose potentially we're also getting to the point where we're also kind of almost expecting like what's next for Avatar comics, because Suki Alone, which we're going to talk about now in just a second, isn't too far away. And then you'd expect, if they're going to immediately follow this up with more short stories that along this style, the one-shot stories, they'll have them ready to go for December, January, February. So we're still waiting on that. But the last bit of comic news we have is that Suki Alone has unfortunately been delayed. Now, it's not a substantial delay, it's just been delayed by 2 weeks. So it was previously scheduled for June 22nd/23rd, the mass market and comic book store release date, Tuesday and Wednesday. Now it's delayed until July 6th/7th. So minor changes. We're used to this. We've seen this a lot. Not recently, but like 2-3 years ago, every book was getting delayed. Certain books got like a month here, 2 weeks there, and they ended up having like 3-4 months worth of delays. This, I don't think, is anything too crazy. It's probably just to kind of give it a separate release date, something to do with like printing delays, something along those lines. It's just a little unfortunate that the one shot we're like actually properly excited for is the one that gets delayed, but still exciting. I still expect we'll get preview pages for this in the next couple of weeks, so that's something to look out for. But any thoughts on a return to Dark Horse delays here for Suki Alone?
Dark Horse delays. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like you said, it is a pretty short one, so it's probably just like a little hiccup. At least that's what we're hoping initially. So I don't expect it to be anything too bad, because I mean they pretty much at this point have to have it for the most part done. It's just sort of production issues, I would suspect at this point. But that is just something that has happened before.
Yeah, Peter Wortman posted on Twitter. It was a few weeks ago, I think, at this point, and he posted his usual spreadsheet thing saying 100%, 100%, 100%. So his work on the book was done at a certain point, but he's not the colorist on the comic, so I'm guessing some of the coloring still had to be done. I think the usual way that this happens is not that the whole book is done in like line work and then the whole book is done in colors. I think they do it sort of roughly groups of pages by groups of pages. So I don't think there's too much of a problem here with the production on the comic. It's like you said, it's just some slight hiccup along the way that's kind of unfortunate, because we're in a bit of a slow period where we have this amazing hype into the future with Avatar Studios, but we're not going to actually hear anything about that for quite a while. And it's happening at the exact same time as like the other stuff has really slowed down as well. That we're not hearing about novels yet. The comics, obviously Avatar switched to one shots. The core comic has just like disappeared, and then they're announcing free comics with like no information. It just kind of feels a bit weird. But yeah, this delay isn't really anything particularly to complain about. So we move into the last couple of pieces of information. The first one here is just a very, very minor update on Avatar Studios that happened at the Nick Upfront event a few weeks ago. Deadline again had a quote from Nickelodeon Network President Brian Robbins talking about basically the Avatar side of things. And what he says is, we are in the early stages of developing and exploring what we are calling an entire Avatar Airbender universe. Mike and Brian are hard at work, and I think that the universe will encompass definitely a theatrical film, animation, certainly multiple TV series, and probably multiple films. I think we will be ready very soon to tell the world what is coming first, but we are not there yet because we're in the early stages of creative development. And that's basically it. There's another quote that the article has about we're excited about filling our own platforms today. We will strategically license content to other places for different reasons, but mostly our focus is on filling our own platforms, starting with linear TV. I don't know how much we're meant to read into like Avatar and the fact that they mention linear TV that much. I'm guessing one of the projects probably will go straight to Nickelodeon, but that most of the main series will be Paramount Plus streaming series. That's more what it's about. But what are your thoughts on this? I suppose the last update we've had on Avatar Studios since it was announced.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more of what, they've been saying before in terms of, the different areas that they are planning on producing content for and where they're going to distribute it and, where it's currently already available. It hasn't really changed too much, just that they're, just putting it out there more and more that this is going to be a thing. They've, obviously already invested a huge, amount of, time and effort and money already into it. So, they're just, making sure that everyone is aware of, which I think most people are at this point, that, they're coming with stuff and that you should be on the lookout for it. So no, it's cool to see that they're, at least, just keeping, at least some information flowing that, stuff is happening, even if it is still, very early stages and, the creative development process and all of that. So no, it's cool to see that, from before where we weren't getting, almost any mention of it, that we're at least getting, mentions that stuff is coming, even if it's still, not there yet.
Yeah, the final thing I want to talk about here is just the quote here at the end, just I think we will be ready very soon to tell the world what's coming first. But we are not there yet because we're in the early stages of creative development. That seems like, oh cool, ready very soon, but then immediately seems like it's straight away contradicted by like, we're nowhere near ready yet because we're in the early stages of development. So it's kind of like, which is it? Is very soon actually very soon or not? Very business speak in terms of like, we're always analyzing what do they mean when they say soon? Because to me, like, soon is like within the next, I'd say, month or two, and even that feels like it's stretching what the word soon actually means. But from his point of view, he's like, anything that's under a year probably means soon or something like that. So that's where we get into this kind of weird, like, what do you mean situation. I would hope that before the end of the year, we at least hear about this is what the story is going to be for the first movie, the first series, that sort of stuff. In that, like, I don't know, like, again, very soon, I would be thinking like within the next 3 months, that's some sort of an update. But everyone was thinking, oh, San Diego Comic-Con, but I believe they just recently announced that they're doing like San Diego Comic-Con in like November or something like that. So I actually don't know like where this news could come from. Unless they're just going to do another article like this. But how much do you read into the fact that he says, like, very soon, but early stages?
Yeah, it does seem to kind of go against itself. I mean, I don't know. I think I would be along the lines of what you're saying, is that it would be, even though, you might think soon could be, like, next month or something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't, near the end of the year. And, if we were going with the idea of, how it used to always be, which, times have changed, so who knows if that's even still a thing as much. But, if it were to align with, what used to be New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, at their current time slot now, that would be near the end of the year. And, that might seem more reasonable to me because, I mean, they, even if they have the story, it's not like we're going to get anything, more defined for, this year, next year. I mean, even next year, getting something really substantial, I'd be quite surprised at. So, it's definitely, they literally just, started forming things and having talks. And I mean, if you were to trace it back to like maybe where, where we first started hearing they were going to do like single issues of comics as maybe like a starting point, even going back from that time, I think it still would be a stretch to really, get something really tangible anytime soon. So that's just my sort of thoughts on that.
Yeah, like I think this just ultimately comes down to a situation of like right now we don't know anything about the story, but if they are locked in of like they know what the movie is about, then they should be able to, without too much, I think, problem, just be like, here's some concept art for the character, or something like that. Like they
Mm.
did with Korra, where we got that first like original shot of Korra overlooking Republic City. You can tell the designs weren't like fully final in that Korra looked a bit different. By the time the show came around, Republic City I think looked a little bit different, but it was the same general concept. And if we're maybe suspecting it might be a older Team Avatar, well, 100% that you release any sort of imagery of like canonical what the team looks like when they're older, that's going to get people excited, and just confirming that potentially that's what the movie is about. That's super super exciting. Um, that immediately gets people excited. We know what to expect, and that's not even like a trailer. That's just like one single piece of art and just confirming what you're doing. Um, that's what I'd be hoping for. I'd be super surprised if they had anything more to say than that. Um, we'll see. I think they can't leave it like so long without saying anything about it. Like if they go like a year without actually having a proper update, then we're kind of getting into sort of situation where like that's a bit weird. Like, is it not part of the studio that you have a way to like release information? But we're still super early at this point. But last piece of news is a quick update on the Avatar Netflix series. And it's basically that the showrunner is confirmed to be Albert Kim. That was rumored before, it's confirmed now. The other part of that rumor about the character ages changing hasn't been confirmed, but it is interesting that that website was the first place to have the Albert Kim news. Like they seemingly just picked him out of nowhere, and it ended up being confirmed. So we'll see on that. The only other update here is that they're saying that it's going to start filming August 16th this year in Vancouver, Canada. And, the showrunner is going to be Albert Kim. That's really it in terms of the update. I think the source on this is that it's from Production Weekly, which is a publication you actually have to buy. So I think someone somewhere on some website bought it, and then the news is sort of like channeled down from there. So there might be some other like super minor updates about it, but they're the core takeaways. So, what are your thoughts on this? Finally, the Netflix show is going into production, which is going to be something that we, we'll get to see. Shots from the set. Actors are going to have to be announced within the next couple of months, I'd guess. So, this is going to properly start up its news cycle. So, where are you at with the Netflix live action show?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, like we've been saying that the whole studios things has started. This isn't, sort of like the main focus if it ever, really was going to be, just because of all of the, potential, ups and downs with having a live production in this universe, can possibly entail. So, I don't know, I'm interested in seeing what goes on and how, who they choose to cast and, how they choose to adapt the story for live action. I mean, I think, it definitely is going to create a lot of noise, as it already has for the show. And, maybe that'll get people interested in, sort of the original one, or maybe they'll just sort of stick for the live action one. We'll see how it actually goes. But, like everything else, it'll definitely be something that's going to be, in the works for a while. And then, the way that Netflix typically releases their shows is only when it's done. So it's not like we're probably going to be get it, sort of like a weekly type of thing or anything like that. So it'll be well and done when we actually get to see it. So, but no, I'm interested just to see how they go about things and, what it actually turns out to be.
Yeah, even though like a lot of the interest in this has really fallen away, it is still going to be somewhat interesting just to see who they get cast as what characters we see on set, if we can figure out like what episodes they are adapting or not. And like especially like we don't even know, like is it just a one season thing? Are they going to try and somehow cram all of the seasons into like one season of the live action show? We could be seeing like quite a lot going on here, and just yeah, like costumes. We have one attempt at live action costumes. Let's see how they do a second attempt. So it'll be somewhat interesting. Obviously, we'd prefer updates on Avatar Studios stuff, but it'll be something to get us through the time when we won't have Avatar Studios information. But it probably is going to be a bit of a race between these two productions to see which one actually gets out first. In terms of like, they both have sort of different challenges, and that like, given when this is starting production, you'd think that if it goes well, they could theoretically get out first, but then the amount of CGI they're probably going to have to do probably like doubles the amount of time it takes. Whereas like we don't know any information about like what animation studio is doing the Avatar show and the film, like, because like the quality of animation obviously determines basically the length of production. In that Studio Mir on Korra was already doing like more or less the equivalent of, I think it was something on the lines of like 3 or 4 times the amount of drawings per episode as like a typical episode of an anime. That's the quality level that Avatar and Korra are at. It's going to have to be even bigger for a movie, you'd think, but Studio Mir are not likely to be that studio at this point, so they have to work all that stuff out first. So a lot of that stuff is going to be interesting to consider, with the fact that they're probably going to have multiple things in production at once. So are we just getting like multiple animation studios on board, or what? All that stuff is going to be like, I think, really interesting once it starts to come out. But we're left kind of waiting right now, and that's just at least for me the kind of theme of the last kind of bunch of weeks is like, okay, a lot of this information is kind of cool, but it's like, a kind of leaked image here. It's an announcement of something with no information there. It's a delay to a book here, a book announced with no image. Nothing like hugely substantial just yet. So I'm kind of waiting for the big stuff to happen in the year. But I suppose, how have you felt the last few weeks, just in regards to like, this is the news we had over the last like month and a bit?
Yeah, I mean it's weird because it is news, and it is a lot more than we've gotten in like past years, where it's just like only been the comics, and even that has sort of been like staggered and felt like it's dropping off to getting all these news of all these figures and possible productions, or productions that are in the early stages of things actually happening. So it's cool to see. I think it's more along the lines of what we used to be getting when we were having the show, but we still don't have like the main, what people mostly would consider like the core of the franchise, which is the actual production shows. But we are hopefully getting those, and we're getting more and more news about that. So no, I think it's definitely on the upswing. It's just like very early in the upswing of things.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, hopefully things will pick up, and like over the next few weeks we get stuff announced. We'll get our preview pages for Suki Alone, and that will give us excitement in the lead up to the release of that book. And at that point we'll hopefully find out what's next for Korra comics, what's next for Avatar comics, and Netflix stuff will start up. We might start to hear our first pieces of information about the Avatar Studios things, and stuff will just go on from there. It's we're gonna get there, like, because I still remember the times on the podcast back in like 2012, 2013, 14, where we were getting like constant news, and like especially in the lead up to one of the new seasons coming out, there'd be so much to talk about with regards to like like Nick Mexico leaked this behind the scenes thing with the voice actors or something like that, and it's our first look at book 3 and that sort of thing. It's going to be exciting to get back to that time, definitely, especially if whatever the project is super new, interesting, and unique. And we just have to get there, and it's going to take a bit. But yeah, other than that, that has been the news, and we'll, I guess, be back probably at some point next month. But again, it depends on what news happens. If big news happens, we'll be back sooner. Otherwise, we'll probably just come on with another monthly kind of update podcast. But yeah, it's been myself and Greg for Avatar Online Podcast episode 227. Thanks for listening, and bye.
Bye-bye.